you ever been told that if you're craving something, it's because there's something in that food that you are deficient in? Well, it's not true. But it also is true. I'm Sarah Bizzani. I'm a Master Herbalist, and here live in the herb-powered pregnancy. If you're new, or if you've been here a while, or you're just seeing me live for the first time, I am all about teaching you about how to have an herb-powered pregnancy, but also not just using the herbs as a pill for every ill, as a band-aid. That is the atomist philosophy that even natural healers use sometimes. So I am of the vitalist philosophy. That is what I was trained in, which is that we give the body what it needs to heal whatever is happening. So we want to get at that deeper level. So we want to use the herbs, but we want to use them for deep nutrition, for deep cleansing, excuse me, and then to give targeted support to whatever area of the body that is saying, hey, I need extra help. Okay, so here we are. If you're watching this on YouTube, I invite you to come join our group on Facebook. It's called Herb Powered Pregnancy. The link is in the below, the description. Okay, so cravings can be very challenging, whether you are in your childbearing year, and that means preconception through postpartum, or you're just a normal human, especially as a woman. But the men have to deal with cravings too. So in this little video, I'm going to talk about some of the reasons behind cravings and what to do about it, in my humble opinion. So again, as a master herbalist, I cannot prescribe, diagnose, or treat disease. I'm not a medical professional. I am not pretending to be one. Nothing I say has been analyzed or approved by the FDA. Choose your own adventure, right? So, so I am just providing education. And I like to go live on topics that seem relevant to the things that you are asking. So if you have a question, please, post it to the group, send me a message, whatever. And I'd be happy to address it. Okay, so let's get into this. All right. So as I said earlier, the idea of I'm craving something, therefore I'm deficient in the nutrients that thing is high in, is partially true, we believe. If you try to look for, actual studies and like hard scientific evidence on this, you're not going to find very much, really. But it's plausible. So let's talk about a few of the cases where what you're craving leads to actually filling nutrient deficiencies, and when that's a good thing. Okay, so when pregnant women crave sweet fruit, excuse me, what are we getting when we eat that sweet fruit, especially if we eat it raw? We are getting hydration, we're getting vitamins, we're getting minerals, we're getting a boost of natural sugars. Now, I've talked before in this group, and I will remind you every chance I get, fruit is not evil, and fresh juice is not evil. It's all about mixing it up in your mouth with your saliva, chewing things down, even if it's liquid already, mixing it with your saliva before you swallow. Okay, we want to chew our solids until they are liquid, and we want to chew our liquids as though they are solid. If you have any kind of blood sugar issue, this is critical. With this method, Dr. Christopher guided many diabetics through juice cleanses, and they had no problem. Okay, so fruit, excuse me, they are one of our greatest friends in terms of antioxidants, phytonutrients, anthocyanins. I mean, there are so many amazing things in fruit, again, especially if we keep them raw. We're also getting fiber with that fruit, excuse me, which is incredibly important for our gut. And when you're pregnant, especially, And your digestive processes do slow down because your body is saying, hey, I now have a huge requirement in terms of excuse me, in terms of nutrients that I need to keep my body healthy and also to grow this new small human. So I'm going to slow everything down and like get everything I can out of whatever nutrients are coming in. Okay, so our digestion slows down. Constipation can be a real issue. This is also another thing that I talk about all the time is constipation. It is critical that we are moving our bowels, especially as pregnant women. Because if you are not moving your bowels, then the other organs and systems of your body that are detoxing and removing waste product, whether it is from actual toxic exposure or just the daily processes of life, okay? Everything that your body does has a waste product, and that waste product needs to go somewhere, and much of it needs to leave the body. I don't know what percentage, maybe all of it. So if it's not leaving the body, then where's it going to go? Then it's waiting somewhere to leave, and that's not good. Okay, if our waste is not leaving the body, then it's going to back up into the liver and gallbladder. It's going to back up into the kidney and bladder, and from there, it's going to back up into our bloodstream. And when our bloodstream is not clear of waste, we have autoimmune issues. We have rashes. Who's had rashes during pregnancy? There's some horrible stories I've heard from some of you when I've polled, like, you know, what are your pregnancy issues? Some of you have terrible rashes or skin problems, acne. That's also a sign that your blood has waste in it and it needs to get out. All right, so I will talk another time about all the different ways that we can ensure our bowels are moving safely as pregnant women. But for now, let's go back to the fruit. So that fiber and the high water content of fruit and just all the other nutrients in it are not only giving our body super, super high nutrition, but also will help keep the bowels moving, okay? Especially during the summer, eating that melon, watermelon, cantaloupe, honeydew, all of it. That was definitely on the list of my cravings during every pregnancy I've had. This is my 4th pregnancy now. During the summer, I just want melon and berries all summer. What is that doing? Okay, we've talked about, you know, the melon is especially good at keeping the bowels moving, and those berries are so high in antioxidants, and they're very good at protecting your skin from sun damage, which we are even more prone to with pregnancy hormones coursing through our body, right? Everything gets more sensitive, including our skin. So I don't want to spend a half hour on fruit, so I'm going to leave it there on the fruit. I have some of my tea. Okay, now let's talk salty things. Put in the comments if you craved salty food like chips. I always crave chips when I'm pregnant. Now, what could be here? Okay, again, we have a higher nutrient demand. And one of those demands is for minerals. Sodium is a mineral, potassium is a mineral. There's lots of different kinds of salts, actually. But all of these are vitally important for so many body processes. But we want to make sure that we are getting high quality salts. Some of the best mineral salts you can get would be from celery or celery juice. Now, I would not recommend going overboard on celery juice while you are pregnant. It is one of the most cleansing juices out there and could be very uncomfortable. But if you want to make a nice juice or smoothie and you put celery juice and cucumber juice and some watermelon and some lime, I mean, you can just make this incredible cocktail or mocktail, I guess, full of minerals and plant nutrients and deep hydration, right? The other reason that we crave minerals is when we are dehydrated. Excuse me. Okay, so that's just a couple of things. The other one that I saw a lot in the list of what you all said you craved. Let me actually just like read that list for a moment. Spinach salads. Okay, what are we getting from spinach? We're getting calcium, we're getting iron, we're getting chlorophyll, everything that we need to build healthy blood, which is so important when we're pregnant and we're building a baby. Really, it's important at any time of life, especially for women, whether you're menstruating, going through puberty, going through menopause, pregnant. So important. Get that deep chlorophyll, dark green plant food. So that one's excellent. All right, comfort food. Okay, we're going to come back to the comfort food. Okay, carbs and bread, pizza, dairy, cheese, cereal, potatoes, scrambled eggs and chocolate milk, popcorn. All right, so we've got lots of carbs in there. Okay, again, the demands on our body are high. Our body knows that we can get energy from carbs, so it's going to say, eat more carbs. But again, we want to choose carbs that are going to increase our health. Green apple, green banana, and green kiwis. I loved this comment. Okay, so what is in common with all three of those things? Green apple, green banana, green kiwis, besides being green. Okay, we've talked about the chlorophyll. But the other thing is that all of those fruits are very tart, they're very sour, and they're really high in enzymes. Okay, again, our digestion is slowing down. Often we'll end up with some heartburn or some indigestion, and that's because our stomach acid is kind of getting out of balance again. So getting those enzymes in with our raw fruits and vegetables are so powerful. Okay, something cold. Often we can be much warmer while we're pregnant. I know for me, I live out in the desert normally, and I was not as able to tolerate that intense heat in the particular environment I live in. I didn't really have anywhere I could retreat to and be comfortable. And so when it was, like 110 degrees, and I was pregnant, it was just like, wow, this is a lot, and I just ate watermelon all day. And that's how I coped. Anyway, so craving cold things, that can totally make sense because our body heat is going up. There's a lot higher blood flow. Our body's working a lot harder. Root veggies. Root veggies have such deep nutrition. They're growing in the ground. If you didn't know, I'm a farmer. They're growing in the ground and they are getting those deep minerals from the ground. Okay, so when you look at lots of ancient herbal medicine or just medicine systems, the root vegetables are always known as what you give people who are nutrient deficient and weak and in need of deep nourishment. Some of those root herbs, so if we look at marshmallow root and astragalus root, this is kind of the famous combination that Dr. Christopher uses in his ImmuCalm formula. It's just two herbs and they are roots and they are both known as adaptogens. So they help the body cope with stress better. Now, how are they doing that? Because they're providing deep nutrition. Okay. And then another great one is beets. So not only do we have a root vegetable, but we also have a deep, dark red colored vegetable, which means it's super high in anthocyanins, which are so important for your immune system, which is typically just ever so slightly compromised, or for some people, a lot compromised while they're pregnant or while you're menstruating, if you're not pregnant yet, or if you're postpartum. Beets are also super important when you're postpartum, when you're recovering from birth, okay? Because again, that deep, rich red indicates that it is going to help you build iron in your body. It's actually the same with watermelon, helps you build iron in your body. And definitely eat those seeds. Get watermelon with seeds and crunch those seeds up and enjoy them with the rest of your fruit. So many nutrients packed in there. Okay, so let's talk about some of these other foods. Okay, so we have our comfort foods and we have our dairy and eggs. Okay, so for those of you who are new around here or haven't read the group rules and need a bit of an introduction, I have a YouTube channel called Herb Powered Pregnancy where you can go back and see different things that I've taught here. But the foundational one, if you go to the one called Dr. Christopher's Healing Methods, it explains the nutrition program that I was taught as part of my Master Herbalist degree. Now, I would say that that master's program, the nutrition was at least half the program. Again, it's not about a band-aid for things, because if I were to teach you, oh, throw this herb at that and throw that herb at that, and not say anything about your diet, you may not get the results, okay? At the same time, if the diet changes seem too overwhelming, remember that any step in a better direction to getting yourself more deeply nourished and cleansing better, even if it's just like that active daily cleansing, right? Your bowels are moving, is going to help, and it is going to help the herbs work better, okay? So I always like to tell people, don't worry about doing it perfect. Do it as imperfectly as you can, but do it. Try. Start taking those steps. You're going to see the results. You're going to see the benefits, and you're going to want to keep doing it. And your taste buds change. So we're going to come back around to that. Okay, so that YouTube video describes in detail Dr. Christopher's mucusless diet, and that diet, he put everyone that came to him on that program and was wildly successful, even pregnant women. So some of you in here are already whole foods plant-based. Some of you wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. But I try to put that in the group rules so that you understand we're going to talk about fruits and veggies here. And I am going to recommend that we at least reduce the meat and the dairy, and of course the sugar in the processed foods. And stick around long enough and you'll begin to learn more. All right. So again, we talked about those wholesome food cravings, what they mean, and the benefits of satisfying those cravings with our raw fruits and vegetables and root vegetables. You're allowed to cook your root vegetables. If you are someone who is in need of, deep healing. So for example, you have a terminal diagnosis, or you have a very severe diagnosis, those kind of emergency conditions, that's when we look at, tons of juices or only raw foods. But when we get to more of like a maintenance diet or just a gentle cleansing, gentle detox diet, that's when we're having a mix of the raw foods and the cooked foods. Because the cooked foods, especially when you are pregnant and needing comfort, those root vegetables. Now, many of them can be eaten raw, but many of them are still, very beneficial for you when they are cooked. So without going too far into that, okay, so here's the deal with the dairy. So if you watch that YouTube video, I will explain why Dr. Christopher did not recommend dairy. Now, why are we craving dairy when we're pregnant? Why? Okay. I know I've always been told, and I'm sure you have too, well, it's because we need more calcium. Okay, it's true. We need more calcium when we're pregnant. We need more bone building ingredients, but also it's not just calcium. It's calcium and phosphorus and vitamin D, excuse me, and all the things. Okay, all the things that need to go together to build those healthy bones. And silica, that's one that's often left out of the whole bone building nutrient plan that most people present these days. So how do we address that? Now, one of the main reasons that Dr. Christopher did not recommend dairy was that it was a fast way to constipation. even when it's raw. I used to be a raw dairy fiend, so I get it. I get it. If this sounds crazy and too hard, just stick with me a little longer. So how do we satisfy that nutritional need instead? So calcium-rich foods, silica-rich foods. So we want to drink a tea or take capsules of herbs that are high in silica and calcium, excuse me, that actually help the body build calcium in a healthy way. Often when we are taking isolated lab-made supplements, even if it started as food, but then they turn it into calcium carbonate or whatever. I know there's like so many different kinds now. It's no longer a wholesome ingredient. It's now partsome. And when we have isolated a compound or even just an element or molecule, and we've taken away all the other things that were part of that wholesome food, we have removed a massive amount of information that the body would normally take in with that other nutrient so that it can do what it needs to do with that nutrient. It will still accept it, but it's going to have to work harder to turn that into the molecules that it needs to actually build a healthy body, in this case, healthy bones and teeth, right? That's a struggle for a lot of pregnant women. Our dental health goes, all right? And again, that's because we have a higher requirement for those nutrients that build strong bones, because we need it and the baby needs it. And the baby gets priority. Nature prioritizes the baby. So if you are not supplying enough nutrients for both of you, the baby's going to get it and you're not. And that's a problem because we need healthy mothers. Okay? We can't just have a healthy baby and then have a mother who can't even take care of her baby anymore because she's so deficient. So that's not what we want. So instead, we want some wholesome calcium, silica, etc. rich foods. So anything green, spinach, broccoli, sprouts would be amazing. And then some of our herbs would be chamomile, oat straw, horsetail, spearmint even. So some of these are in my, I now call it Cal Mint, because just calling it calcium made Facebook flag it as a, like as a drug, which is hilarious. So on herbalembrace.com, I have a tea called Cal Mint, and it's just a little bit minty. And what I actually do, what I've been doing today is when I brew my prenatal tea, I make it half prenatal, my prenatal blend, which is coming soon, and half my calcium blend, my Cal Mint blend. Anyway, so there's just a few things there. Okay, so I have definitely been told, well, if you're craving something, then you're deficient in that thing and you should definitely eat it. All right. If I'm craving a watermelon, yes, I will go eat as much watermelon as I want. If I'm craving Oreos, I am not going to go eat as many Oreos as I want, as tempting as that is, because what I will get from that is only a temporary satiation, satiety. I will only get temporary relief from that craving, okay? And I'm going to go into a few of the reasons why we would crave junk food, right? Why we would crave things like that are high in sugar, high in chemicals, that just really have zero nutrient value. Even if, like the food science companies have gone back in and added all these minerals and like enriched the flour, that's not going to get you that deep nutrition. Again, it's going to make the body work harder. Some bodies can't even detox that. They can't even process it to the point where like it is a literal burden. Like it is a literal toxin for some people to have any kind of enriched vitamin, especially B vitamins. All right. So what I can do instead is say, okay, I'm craving Oreos. All right. Why might that be? Is my blood sugar a little bit low? Am I feeling a little emotional? Am I just trying to dissociate with my food? Am I just trying to feel better by having that flavor, right? And I get it. I love food, you guys. I love flavors. I grew up overseas. My husband and I love experiencing other cultural foods, and we prepare a lot of them at home. I love all the different flavors. And I love sweet things. But let's listen to that message and instead say, what is a healthy way that I could satisfy that craving? Okay, so if I'm craving something sweet and sugary, I'm going to go have some berries instead. And when I respond to a craving for an unwholesome food with wholesome food, the other craving goes away. Because I am telling my body, guess what? In the past, you did get those things, let's say sugar. In the past, you got your sugar from treats and junk food, and that is how you learned to survive. But let me teach you a healthy way that you can still get what you're telling me that I need, or that we need, right? Like it's the same. Anyway, and so we are retraining the body. So just because you are craving a specific food, even if it is a like a whole food, like a real food, let's say you're craving beef, for example. Okay. Let's say you're craving beef, but you've decided that you're not going to have beef anymore. All right, so what do? Well, one camp would say, if you're craving beef, you absolutely need to go eat it because beef is the only thing that's going to give you whatever it is you're deficient in. Well, there's a little more to it. Because the other part of this is, again, your body has been trained from the time you were born where it can get certain nutrients. So if you haven't learned to eat a wider variety of foods, and you haven't taught your body that you can get those nutrients from other things, okay, in this case, let's say beef, okay, so let's say protein and iron, right? Because often those are the things that we say, oh, that's why you need beef, protein and iron. Okay, where can I get that instead? I can get that from spirulina and chlorella. Really, I can get protein from any food. It's in any food, even a fruit. And I promise you it's enough. There's actually lots of studies done on this. There's books about the protein myth. It's not all about protein. In fact, many of us get too much protein. And it can actually leach other important nutrients out of the body when we have too much. I know this sounds crazy. Again, stick with me a little longer. Oh, and then the iron. Okay, we've talked about the iron, right? Anything high in chlorophyll and anything that's a dark red color, okay? And red raspberry leaf. Red raspberry leaf tea or capsules if you can't drink tea, or a tincture, including a glycerin tincture if you can't take capsules and you can't drink tea. Like there are so many options, and that's what I'm here to help you find the option that works for you, for your lifestyle, for your budget, for your if you have texture issues, if you have taste issues. Anyway, so these foods provide an incredible source of iron and it's highly bioavailable. So again, we can teach our body where to get these nutrients, even though in the past, this is where I got it. But guess what? I can get it over here. And in many cases, I can get it a lot easier over here. And I can get it without some of the side effects and after effects that come from eating the foods over here. So do you see where this starts to be more of like an emotional, psychological thing, and it's okay. All right. So my first few weeks of this pregnancy, this is my first pregnancy where I'm not eating meat or dairy. And those first couple weeks, I craved red meat and dairy hard, because that's what my body was so used to as the comfort food of past pregnancies. But I taught my body where to get those nutrients instead. I loaded up on my chlorophyll-rich foods. I loaded up on my red raspberry leaf tea. And those cravings went away. So when we get these messages from our body, if we just take a moment to try to understand what they're trying to tell us, and have a little curiosity about what our options might be to meet those needs that it's telling us that we have, you just might open a new world for yourself. Let's get super philosophical. I'm gonna drink a little more tea here. Okay, so we've talked about wholesome foods, partsome foods, cravings that we can, without any, without any misgivings, go for it. Eat that bowl of watermelon. And then the cravings for things that we can say, maybe there's a better way here. So what are some of the other reasons that we might have cravings besides nutrient deficiency? Because again, I said it was partly true and partly not. Because we don't want to use that as an excuse to indulge in foods that are actually going to be harmful for us. Even if it's like, well, I turned out fine, my baby turned out fine. Okay, but I want better for you. And you can have better. And you can have better without feeling deprived. It might take some time. It might take some experimentation. But I promise you it'll be worth it. It's been so worth it for me. All right, so other reasons. Hormonal imbalance. Okay, this is another reason to have that red raspberry leaf tea or my prenatal tea blend, which again, I'm starting the ad campaign for it today. So you'll start getting an understanding of the herbs that are in that blend and why you need them, whether you are preconception through the end of pregnancy. But that red raspberry leaf tea has been used historically for balancing hormones and many, many other things. It's an incredible pregnancy tonic. It's an incredible hormonal tonic, reproductive organ tonic, even for men. It's really good for all ages, all body types, all, male, female. So that's an incredible one. There are other things that affect hormonal imbalance. Of course, there's emotions and thoughts. It's also the foods we eat. Okay, that's another challenge with the dairy, is that it can really it can wreak havoc on our hormones. There's hormones in that is meant for the baby cows or the baby goats or the baby sheep. And so it's something to consider. And then, of course, when we look at our sugars and processed food, they really mess up our hormones. So I know if you're in a state where, that's something, those are things that you're eating regularly and it would seem impossible to ever give that up. I was there once. I promise you, I wasn't always this health nut. I was once a chemical engineer who drank soda all day long, and had pizza every day for lunch, and would go home and eat a bag of Starburst. Like, I'm not talking as someone who has not experienced this before and has not transformed and seen the before and after of what this looks like. So there's some things there. And again, that red raspberry leaf is one of the best things. There's also 2 formulas that I super recommend, and it is Dr. Christopher's Hormonal Changes and Female Reproductive Formula. as well as either a good quality wheat germ oil or flaxseed oil. You can get all 4 of those things at herbalembrace.com if you're in the United States or Canada. I ship all over. And I do have that drop shipped directly from the manufacturer. You can find those on Amazon, but many of them are fakes, and you don't want that. If you're gonna put herbal remedies in your body, you want to make sure they're the real ones that have gone through, you know, all the necessary quality checks and testing. Okay, so those are really, really great for rebalancing your hormones. Now, if you have a more extreme condition, particularly if you're pre-pregnancy and you're looking at PCOS, endometriosis, things like this, you know, extreme hormonal imbalance, there are some more aggressive protocols that you can do that I can teach you beyond just those, you know, the oil and then the 2, we'll call them hormone support herbal combinations. All right, so let's move on. Then we come to, as I said, what are some of the things that affect our hormones? One other thing here is if our liver is not in good shape. Okay, because part of the liver's responsibility is processing our hormones, and they have you know, a role in the creation of the hormones of our body. So if our liver isn't in good shape, that can cause this hormonal imbalance as well. And of course, then you have, you know, the thyroid can get involved in things. There's lots of different ways that there's lots of different things that can lead to our hormones not quite being as they were designed to be, you know, by divine design. Again, that's where, you know, if you want to talk to me one-on-one and we can kind of dial down what are your unique challenges and where do we start. So we can start addressing by those causes as well by cleansing and feeding those organs, and it can be done while you're pregnant. It's never too late. It can be done postpartum. It's never too late. But what I like to teach is if you're not pregnant yet, now is the time to really get your body cleansed and nourished so that when you are pregnant, then you can just manage like those goofy little additional things that pregnancy brings rather than also managing these dysfunctions that you already had going in your body, because it's just a lot of work. You can do it, but it's really great if we can do it before you even get pregnant. Okay, so then we come back to stored trauma and stress, beliefs and thoughts, right? All of this can factor into cravings, all right? Like, you know, addictions and things like this. And I'm not a psychologist, so I'm just going to tell you that's part of it. But we go back to like what I was talking about, listening to that message and then choosing a response that is going to lead to your highest good, your best health, and your best wellness. So then we have the last 2 really fun things, causes for cravings. The first is parasites. Now, parasites are not, according to my education, now you're going to find that every herbalist has slightly different opinions and slightly different trainings, and they're going to be different than, you know, your herbalist trained, herbal trained midwives who I love, and your herbal trained doulas who I love, and your herbal trained lactation consultants who I love, and then you have your MDs and your NDs and your chiropractors. I'm sorry, but just like the rest of the health world, there are going to be disagreements about things. But according to my education, you don't really want to be doing a heavy parasite cleanse while you are pregnant. So this is one of these things that if you suspect is going on and you are not pregnant yet, get on a parasite cleanse. So I can teach you one. You can go searching the internet. There's tons out there. Everyone has their favorite way to do it. But let's talk about why parasites influence cravings. Okay, parasites love sugar. And parasites would not be in your body. They may enter your body, but they would not stay in your body if it was not a habitable environment for them. So what kind of environment do parasites love? They love an acidic body. If you've ever heard like acidic versus alkaline bodies, they love that acidic condition, which is primarily brought on by sugar, processed food, meat, and dairy. Those are all acid forming foods. Okay. Those are all mucus forming foods. So parasites love to feed on those. The other thing is when you are eating large quantities of those things, especially, again, your body is not going to be cleansing properly. And therefore you are going to have that mucus buildup. You're going to have lots of waste product sitting around. And something is going to appear to take care of it. Okay, this is the same principle with permaculture and soil science, as well as with terrain theory, that the bad guys could not thrive if there wasn't some waste product that needs to be taken care of. It's the same with Candida albicans overgrowth. Why do we get it? Because antibiotics have wiped out all but the most virulent, pathogenic, all but the strongest, that's a better word, all but the strongest bacteria, viruses, yeasts that are in your gut. Bacteria have wiped them out. Antibiotics have wiped them out. And now how is your body going to repopulate? Well, it's only going to repopulate according to whatever you put into your body. And it's going to create a balance according to what needs to be broken down, digested, and dealt with. So if you're eating a high sugar, high dairy, high alcohol diet, that Candida albicans is going to grow in response to that need. So is Candida really the bad guy? Now, I don't want to say that you're the bad guy because that would just be rude, but just saying, well, let's just kill the Candida without addressing the diet does not give you long-term results. Which is a bummer, right? Like we want life to be easy and no work and everything, right? It's a bummer. And I truly believe that we have to work a lot harder now to be healthy than several generations ago, or many, many, many generations ago. Because this is all built up. This is all concentrated and passed along through each generation so that each new generation is already being born with a higher toxic load than the previous one and with poorer gut health than the previous one. Because where do we get our gut health? We get it from our parents. We get it from passing through the birth canal. We get it through skin contact with our parents and our caregivers. And then we get it through what we eat. And then we're affected by what we eat and what's injected into us and what drugs have been put in our system. And all of these things lead to this gut dysbiosis. Okay, so again, the parasites in the Candida, even if they enter your body naturally through the environment, right? Because like that's everywhere. They wouldn't be able to stay if you didn't have an environment that fed them. So we want to stop feeding them. And so that's why, especially they say that parasites reproduce at the full moon. And I think it's like 4 days before, 4 days after, something like that. And so that's especially if you're getting high sugar cravings and it's around the time of the full moon, you might want to think about a parasite cleanse. And many of them sound hard, but they're not for very long. So this is another reason that we might be craving that processed food. And then again with the Candida's job is to break down sugar, dairy, and alcohol. And so if it has blossomed in response to all those causes that I've already discussed. And it is now the dominant part of your gut microbiome. And you suddenly, stop consuming those things, they are kind of going to scream at you for a little bit. But I promise you, again, it doesn't have to be for very long if you do it the right way. So those messages that we're getting, they aren't even always from like our own bodies. Because, our body is actually, we have these living organisms in our body that's part of our whole health picture, and they send us messages too. But just because they send us a message doesn't mean we have to appease them, right? We listen to it and say, oh, I think this is what's going on. Here's how I'm going to respond to it. We've talked about, like I said, sometimes our cravings are that we do have nutrient deficiencies we need to address. Sometimes they are caused by a hormonal imbalance. Sometimes it's from stored trauma, stress, beliefs, right? Like I have to have this thing. That's another thing, right? With beliefs, like we are trained with so many nutritional dogmas. And I know very well that it can be really hard to get past those. Really hard, because you believe in them so much. And as far as you can tell, they've helped you. Now, they may have helped you, but does that mean they are the actual best thing for you? I'd just like you to consider that. Okay. And then the parasites and the candida overgrowth, or there may be other, other forms of that gut dysbiosis where, we have dominant strains of these different microflora that, again, they come in to clean up the waste. But once they're there, they stay because we keep feeding them, and they're going to keep telling us to eat the things that they want to eat. This is how I teach my kids too. So I hope this makes sense. There's kind of one last thing as far as a cause that I want to bring your attention to, and this blew my mind. So one of our professors at the Master Herbalist certifying seminar, his name was Dr. Christopher Hobbs. He's one of the professors that we learn from throughout the Master Herbalist program, and then he comes to the seminar and teaches another day of lecture. So he has a PhD in phylogenetics from Berkeley, evolutionary biology, and phytochemistry, and he is also an expert mycologist, which is mushrooms. So he had fascinating things to tell us, but one of the things that he told us was, as soon as you refine something, it becomes a substance that your body craves. And I don't think science fully understands this yet. And so if we look at that, our body, as I've explained many times throughout even just this live, but I say it often, okay, whenever I do video, as soon as something has been isolated or synthesized or taken from its wholesome form into a partsome form, it's a burden on the body. It may be a short-term benefit, but long-term, it's a burden that the body has to figure out what to deal with. And if it can't get rid of it properly, it stores it somewhere. This is when we have the rheumatism and the arthritis and the bone spurs and all that lovely junk. So refined foods, they are not healthy. Now, do I sometimes eat refined foods? Yes. Will I still love you if you eat refined foods? Yes. Can you still be in our group if you eat refined foods? Yes. But I need to teach you this. They are not creating health or wellness in your body. They are simply satisfying a desire of a very confused body. Because it's not real food at that point. So again, Sometimes our cravings are intelligent and we should totally go after them. Sometimes we need to retrain our body and our mind and our emotions, and it's totally possible. Okay, another quote here that I really love. This is one from David Christopher, who is the son of Dr. John Raymond Christopher. And he runs the school now. So heading back to that microflora of the gut, he said, we feed the microflora and the microflora feeds us. So this is a symbiotic relationship. But again, we need to pay attention to it and make a choice, not just react to it and assume that any message we get is definitely something we should say yes to. One of the amazing things here, pregnant women especially need their B vitamins. So I know at one point in my life, I was told, well, you need to take this B vitamin supplement. And that's even when I was having like organ meat and grass-fed everything and raw dairy everything. Like I was eating like the high B vitamin foods and the fish oil. And I was told, well, if you're having mood problems, you need to take a B vitamin supplement. So I did, and it helped until it didn't. Again, you get that short-term benefit, and then it didn't actually heal the problem. So you don't get that long-term healing. So one of the amazing things that I've learned through this nutrition study in the Master Herbalist program is that when you heal your gut, you restore the right balance of enzymes and stomach acid. And you restore a high diversity and high quantity of that microflora that you want in there. You're never gonna have zero candida. You're never gonna have zero E. coli. Maybe our current measurement methods will say you have zero, but there's always gonna be a tiny amount there. If you didn't know, in my past, it's my same lifetime, but I always say in another life because it feels like another life. I was a chemical engineer, and there were many times where someone would run a test and it would show that none of this substance was in the sample of what they tested. The problem is the conclusion you can draw is really only as good as your analysis, which is only as good as your data measurement and your experimental design. And if your data measurement is not sensitive enough, then you won't get a signal. And you may conclude, therefore, that thing isn't there, but it actually is, because this happens all the time. Like if you think about like the whole BPA thing, it wasn't detectable until it was, right? Because they're always improving their instrumentation and their measurement systems. And suddenly we have something that can detect it and says, oops, that's in all these things, now it has to go off the market. Now, what they replaced it with is a discussion for another time. But at any rate, again, it's not about just like killing off the bad guys. You're always going to have bacteria, viruses, and yeasts in your body. It's about getting the right balance that leads to health and wellness. And it's totally possible. It's honestly like it's our birthright. I don't know why I'm laughing. Like I believe that so strongly that it's our birthright to have a healthy gut and have a healthy microbiome. So when you have a healthy microbiome, your gut bacteria create B vitamins. Let that sink in. Like I said, this blew my mind. I hope it just blew your mind. Tell me in the comments if it blew your mind. Because, again, one way of looking at health is, oh, you're having anxiety and or depression, you need more B vitamins, take some B vitamins, you'll feel better. And again, you may feel better for a little bit until you don't. But if we look deeper and we say, why am I deficient in B vitamins? Even though I'm eating the foods that should give me B vitamins, there's more going on there. And it's really because our gut is not creating the B vitamins. And why isn't it doing that? Because we don't have the right combination and quantity and balance and diversity of gut microflora. So I am extremely passionate about this topic, if you can't tell. It is so critical. And the gut healing protocol that I am trained in, and that I have so many amazing case studies from, it's an 18-day program. It's 18 days. Now, some people might need to continue like a bit of a maintenance program, but it's like nothing compared to the initial 18 days. And it's just kind of ongoing healing and ongoing nutritional support. This program can be safely done while pregnant. It can be safely done before pregnant. I tell a story in my my series that was 5 reasons why you're not getting pregnant that turned into 6 reasons because I couldn't resist. And I consolidated all of that into one YouTube video for those of you that weren't around when I posted all of those. So I did share a story there where this one woman was not trying to get pregnant and had been told that she would never have another baby. She had one baby who was like a teenager, who was now a teenager. She was told she would never get pregnant. She started because her reproductive issues were so bad. And she started working at this clinic where they used this gut healing program. And she went on that program, made no other changes, and she was pregnant a month later. So it's just incredible, the power of healing your gut and what it allows the rest of your body to do. There's also something called the gut-brain axis. The status of your gut microflora is directly linked to, your brain health and your mood health. It's so important. And this is why, again, it sounds so unfair for me to tell you, if you're depressed, you really need to stop eating candy, right? That's not fair, Sarah. This is my only joy in life. I promise you, there are other things with greater joy. I promise. And if you start taking those baby steps, I know some people like to jump in, cannonball into the health changes. And if that's you, go for it. I will teach you what you need to know to just go for it. Do all the things at once. If that's your thing, great. Others of us need teeny tiny baby steps. And then there's, the whole range in between. And that's all okay. Like, you've got to do what you're going to be able to sustain and what you're going to be able to manage with your own needs and your own lifestyle and challenges and all these things. But I promise you, if you take care of your gut health, those mood issues, you are going to see some significant changes. And I know this is one of the things that when I asked y'all and just, polling, my Facebook friends who aren't in this group, what are your biggest pregnancy challenges? And a lot of women said mood problems. And I know for me it was as well. My last pregnancy, I was hardcore on the Weston A. Price diet. I had the worst depression of all 3 pregnancies. And then at the end, we had, the shutdowns. The end of my pregnancy and his birth was, a month or 2 into the shutdown. So it was terrible mood-wise. And I thought I was doing what I needed to have a healthy gut. I was doing the probiotics and I had done the bone broth and I was doing the organ meats and the fish oil and everything. It was not working for me. So that is what's really cool about, what I have learned here is that we're addressing not just stop feeding the candida, but also restoring that gut lining, restoring the digestive powers. We're giving our body what it needs to build healthy everything. including those B vitamins. So let me just check here. So what I want to leave you with, okay, so we've talked about, the different reasons why we have cravings. Okay, what do we do about it? Okay, so we've already talked about learning to listen and respond instead of react, right? We're retraining our taste buds. We're retraining our addictions, honestly. Many of these foods are addictive. And then we really want to get our gut in good order. So again, that gut healing protocol is excellent for preconception and pregnancy. It's a little trickier when you are breastfeeding, but it still can be done. And then again, we start saying no to the partsome foods, and we start saying yes to the wholesome foods. And again, that journey is going to look different for everybody in terms of the speed and the ratio. The other thing that really helps is getting that deep nutrition with our herbs. Because again, if it's primarily nutrient deficiency, one of the best ways we can get those nutrients into our body is with the herbs. They are jam-packed. They are, I believe, given to us from God, jam-packed with the vitamins and minerals that we need to be healthy. Not just a tea that we drink when we're sick. No, these are things that we bring into our body every day to rebuild our health and maintain our health. So as I described, like I've been drinking my tea. I have at least a quart of my prenatal tea every day. And, I have a family history of calcium problems, osteoporosis and whatnot. And so, ideally I would also be drinking a quart of the calcium tea every day. And the more of these deep nutrients we get in our body, I promise you, the other cravings begin to disappear. One last tip on cravings or foods that help us manage them or minimize or eliminate them. This is a combination that I recommend for everybody. And excuse me. So it is before every meal, you have some apple cider vinegar, raw with the mother, organic, and some raw local honey, if you can get it. Please figure out a way to get it. You can also do it without the honey. But so you have a splash of the vinegar, a tablespoon of the honey, mix it up in some water. I fill it up to like 8 ounces, and then I drink that. And, have that 15 minutes before every meal. Or if that's too hard to remember, sip it when you remember. Like, it's really okay. So, when you take this into your body, it actually, with the honey, you're getting enzymes and minerals, and it can help with that just kind of extra inherent inflammation that you might get, seasonal allergies kind of things that tends to come along with pregnancy. And then the apple cider vinegar helps your body restore the proper stomach acid balance. So that's going to help you get to a point where you are digesting your food properly. It's going to reduce your heartburn. It's going to reduce your indigestion. But it also reduces sugar cravings. So, and I worked with a diabetic woman who used this, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. The cravings are gone when I have this 3 times a day, every day." So I would love for you to experiment with any of these principles. I would love for you to contact me if you want more personal help with anything. And I think that's a wrap for today.